Are you the kind of person that likes to visit creepy real-life places? Is Halloween one of your favorite times of the year? How about visiting one of these places in Northeast Ohio that are on our list, and get really creeped out? These places are great for exploring and doing a little ghost hunting. And who knows what you may discover when you do visit them. But before we begin, if you like this video, please subscribe to our channel, and also please click the notification button so you can be notified when we drop more videos like this one. The first creepy and haunted spot to explore is Squires Castle. This fascinating spot is located at the North Chagrin Reservation of the Cleveland Metroparks in Willoughby, Ohio. This medieval-looking structure was built in 1890 by Fergus Squire. The place was initially supposed to be the gatehouse and caretaker's quarters for what was going to be part of a much larger estate, but Squire scrapped his plans for the bigger estate as his wife Louisa did not like living in the country. Squire made the castle his weekend retreat. He hung up trophies and stuffed animals and other souvenirs throughout the house from his hunting expeditions in the nearby woods. His daughter Irma often accompanied Squire on his weekend excursions to the castle, and occasionally Louisa would also join these outings. It was said that Louisa met her demise at the country retreat, when during a storm, she came down the stairs, holding a candle, and was startled by lightning. She then hit her head on one of the stuffed animals, and fell down the stairs, and broke her neck. But actually, the truth is not nearly as terrible as the myth. For because Louisa was so reluctant to come and live at the country estate, Squire decided to sell his land and the retreat to developers in 1922. Louisa actually died a less spectacular death at her home a few years later, in 1927. Yet even with these being the facts, the myths are still very much alive, and make Squires Castle quite a popular destination for ghost hunters. Many people who have visited Squires Castle over the years have seen lights flickering at night on the second floor where lights should not be flickering. They have seen shadow figures and felt the presence of a spirit or two in the halls and in the trophy room. So maybe Louisa did decide to come and stay at the castle, having finally made peace with the place after her death. Maybe, when you explore the castle one evening, you just may end up meeting her or another spirit that has decided to make their eternal home in this magnificent structure. The second interesting spot to visit and to explore is the once prominent and now abandoned Warner and Swayze Observatory. The observatory is located off of North Taylor Road in East Cleveland, Ohio. The observatory was built in 1920 by the manufacturing company of Warner and Swayze. Fun fact, Warner and Swayze's main factory, located on Carnegie and E55th Street in the heart of Cleveland, is also abandoned, and would also be an interesting site to visit. The observatory was built for use for Case Western Reserve University. At the time it was built, it was considered a scientific landmark, and remained so for the 5 decades it was in use. Sitting high on a hill, it was once in a great spot for observing the night sky. In fact, the observatory proved that the Milky Way was indeed a spiral galaxy. They also spotted many red giants near the center of the Milky Way. But as the city grew and more buildings were built near the observatory, the light pollution made it difficult to see the night sky, and the observatory lost its usefulness The observatory closed its doors in 1980. As it has fallen into a decrepit state, it is now a prime spot for urban explorers and quite a fascinating place to visit. Though you are unable to go inside the observatory without permission, the grounds themselves hold a lot of appeal, especially in its creepiness factor. This is a great place to see and to experience for yourself this Halloween season. The third creepy location on our list to visit is Lakeview Cemetery. Lakeview Cemetery is located between Mayfield Road and Euclid Avenue. Lakeview Cemetery is the final resting place to some very famous Clevelanders, such as John D. Rockefeller, the Glidden family of the famed Glidden Paint Company, the Higbee family of the Higbee's department store chain, Oliver Hazard Perry, Alan Freed, Garrett Morgan, who was the man who created the gas mask, Cleveland Browns owner Al Lerner, politicians Carl and Louis Stokes, Eliot Ness, among many, many others. Lakeview Cemetery is also the site of the memorial to President Garfield and his wife Lucretia. In fact, it is said that Garfield's memorial is quite haunted. People who have visited the memorial have felt a presence following them around, and have even seen someone who looks like Garfield walking inside the memorial. There was even a story that someone once saw the apparitions of Garfield playing chess with Rockefeller in the lower section of the memorial. Another fun fact, Garfield's home in nearby Mentor, Ohio, is also said to be haunted, so you can make a trip to see both his home, and then come and visit his memorial, and maybe you will come across his spirit in one or the other place. Another haunted and creepy spot at Lakeview Cemetery is the Weeping Angel that is found at the Hasserot tomb. This statue appears to be weeping due to the weathering of the bronze. Some people have claimed that when they walk near this creepy statue, it feels as though her eyes are watching you. So, when you find her in the cemetery, then you can determine for yourself if you sense something dark while you observe this intense statue, and if her eyes do indeed follow you and creep you out. The next spot on our list is yet another famous haunted Cleveland cemetery. It is the Eerie Street Cemetery, located on East 9th Street, right across the street from Progressive Field. The Eerie Street Cemetery was first established in 1826, when at that time it was located at the edge of the city. It was the city's first permanent cemetery, replacing one that was temporarily located near Public Square. In fact, you can find one of the few bodies that were moved from the first cemetery by Public Square and were relocated to this cemetery. That particular grave is located near the entrance of the Eerie Street Cemetery. Some of the notables that are buried here are Lorenzo and Rebecca Carter, who were the first permanent settlers in Cleveland, Cleveland's first mayor John Willie, and Leonard Case Jr., who started Case Western Reserve University. But one of the more infamous persons buried here is the Native American Jocko Sott, or who is also known as Walking Bear. Jocko Sott was part of the Meskwaki tribe. He led gaming expeditions to Cleveland and eventually joined a theatrical troupe, where he gained a popular following in eastern United States and in Europe. On a visit to England, he met Queen Victoria, who was said to be highly impressed by him. While on that trip in England, he became sick, possibly from tuberculosis, and left the country shortly after. When returning to the United States, he made a few stops at a few more cities before deciding to return to his home near Fort Leavenworth, Missouri. He intended to die and to be buried at his home state, as was his wish and his plan. But before he could make the final journey home, he made one last stop in Cleveland to visit his friend, local coal magnate John Stockley. His illness almost immediately took a turn for the worse, and he died in Cleveland on September 3, 1844. Stockley and a few other Clevelanders quickly arranged for his burial at the Eerie Street Cemetery. The intention of his burial was to honor Jocko Sott and the Native American peoples. Jocko Sott was then posthumously named Chief of the Sauk. Jocko Sott's original tombstone broke into several pieces after a large tree limb fell on it. They did try to rivet it back together, but it crumbled and fell apart a couple more times. It was said that it was Jocko Sott who continued to break the original tombstone, protesting the fact that he is not buried where he had wished to be, at his beloved home in Missouri. He now walks restlessly through the cemetery, forever unhappy about not being near his own people. A new headstone was erected and was placed in front of the still shattered tombstone that now remains in the ground and is, to this day, a popular spot for people to visit and to pay their respects to Jocko Sott. Jocko Sott is not the only restless spirit at the Eerie Street Cemetery. It has many spirits that wander through the tombstones. One that is frequently seen is a woman in white, but there are many others that you might catch a glimpse of in the corner of your eye as you walk through this very old cemetery. And, as it sits in the heart of downtown, this is certainly a creepy place to visit at night, and a popular spot to see during the Halloween season. So, take your ghost hunting equipment with you, and maybe you will be able to communicate with Jocko Sott, or another ghost or two. The fifth spot on our list of creepy places is actually located quite near the Eerie Street Cemetery. It is the Greys Armory building, which is located on Bolivar and Prospect Streets. This grand structure was built in 1893 and was used to house the Cleveland militia and served as a training facility, meeting lodge and assembly hall. The Cleveland Greys hosted a few presidential inaugurations and funerals in the building. John Philip Sousa played with his band here. Several presidents and other notables came and spent time here, often relaxing in the recreation areas. The museum housed inside the building holds many artifacts and personal items from soldiers who fought and died in various wars throughout the late 19th and early 20th centuries. These personal artifacts may have left behind some dark and even troubling energy that leaves a mark in the rooms of the armory. It manifests into the form of spirits as these spirits roam the halls. Many people have seen a woman in white standing near the armory's famous piano, and also disembodied voices can be heard all around. Even the outside of the armory is not immune to spirits. Some ghost hunters have come in contact with a young mother who walks along the streets just outside the armory. It is unclear as to how she died, but if you manage to speak with her, she has communicated how much she misses her children. So, even if you aren't able to go inside the armory, you may still find this particularly sad spirit on the sidewalk of Bolivar Street, who waits to tell her story to whomever is willing to listen. If you wish to visit other spots throughout downtown Cleveland that host spirits of all kinds, there are many places to go. One stop you will want to make is Pickwick and Frolic, located on East 4th Street. Pickwick and Frolic was at one time the home of the former Cleveland Opera House. Many spirits haunt this location, especially in the downstairs bar, where you can ask the people who work there if they have ever experienced any odd, paranormal events. Some of the servers and bartenders have wild stories to tell. The Playhouse Square Theatre District also has ghosts that may make themselves known. People have been known to see a man in a green suit, standing near the seats of the Palace Theatre, and who sometimes directs people to their seats, as if he were one of the ushers. While a more mischievous lady in white makes her home at the Hannah Theatre. She tends to steal jewelry from actresses who are there to perform in the plays at the theatre. And if you wish to stay at a couple of haunted hotels in the heart of downtown Cleveland, then you are in luck, for your two best options are the Hyatt Regency at the Cleveland Arcade and the Cleveland Renaissance Hotel at the Terminal Tower. At both hotels, you may find your peaceful evening being interrupted by a ghostly spirit or two, as television sets and lights turn on by themselves, or you might sense someone watching you while you are trying to sleep. But if you are up for a good haunting, then you won't mind any of these disruptions. Now, our last stop on our creepy and haunted locations of Northeast Ohio is the Midwest Railway Preservation Society, located at 2800 West 3rd Street in Cleveland. You will find the location itself in a fairly creepy section of town. It is surrounded by graffiti-strewn railroad cars, on train tracks that are no longer used, near old steel mills that barely function any longer. A kind of ghost town in what was once a booming part of Cleveland. The Midwest Railway Preservation Society houses a variety of trains and is located at near an old, abandoned roundhouse. The Preservation Society once owned what was called the Death Train car, which was a passenger car that was involved in a fatal crash. The passenger car was part of the Lackawanna train that collided with another train in 1943. Over 130 people were injured or killed in that crash. Some claimed that the death car had more than 17 separate ghosts. Though the train car is no longer part of the exhibits, the rail yard still has quite a creepy vibe, and is undoubtedly another fascinating place to visit, and a good spot to possibly encounter a spirit or two. So, how eager are you to tempt fate by visiting some of these creepy and possibly haunted sites in Northeast Ohio? You can't deny that this is a great way to experience the history of the city, and also to get a little taste of the odd and of the paranormal. And maybe, just maybe, you will come away with a new appreciation of the dark side of the city of Cleveland, and also have an excellent Halloween season. Happy haunting, everyone!